Italy is a country unlike any other. This is the land where the oldest functioning university in the world was founded. The world's first modern banks appeared here. The earliest commercial roads on the European continent were built on Italian soil. Italy also became the birthplace of one of the most important cultural revolutions in human history, the Renaissance. Today, this same country designs the world's most beautiful sports cars, creates the most luxurious fashion brands on earth, and exports a lifestyle and aesthetic that millions try to imitate. Italy is truly one of the architects of the modern world. From popular coffee drinks, pizza, pasta, and wine to architecture, engineering, art, and motorsport, Italy has left fingerprints everywhere. But what makes Italy so unique? Why, with such massive cultural influence, did it never become a global leader? And how does modern Italy function today? If you look at Italy on the map, it seems like a unified nation-state with 58 million people, the third largest population in the European Union. Officially, 91% of its residents are ethnic Italians. But this is only the surface. Italy is essentially 20 completely different worlds. Take the wealthy region of Lombardy with Milan as its capital. Its economic indicators match those of Japan. Now compare that to Sicily, the homeland of the mafia, where the figures are closer to those of Barbados in the Caribbean. But the fragmentation goes much deeper. Italy is divided into 107 provinces, and even those into nearly 8,000 autonomous communes. In Rome, the largest commune, 2.7 million people live. Meanwhile, in the smallest commune, fewer than 40 people reside. Each commune manages its own property, and more importantly, its own local affairs. There is even a specific Italian word for this phenomenon, campanilismo, meaning loyalty to your own bell tower or village. In other words, every small town is a republic. This extreme localism sometimes borders on absurdity. One of the largest oil fields in Italy, Tempa Rossa, was discovered in 1989, but the extraction only began 30 years later. Why? Because the company needed over 400 individual approvals from the 4 layers of Italian authority: national, regional, provincial, municipal. Even if the national government approves a major project, nothing moves forward unless local communes agree. Another example, in 2012, British Gas abandoned a massive LNG terminal project near Brindisi after 11 years of battling Italian bureaucracy and losing 250 million euros along the way. To understand why local authorities wield so much power, we need to look at Italian history. For centuries, what is now Italy was a patchwork of kingdoms, duchies, and independent states. Naples and Sicily were kingdoms of their own. Sardinia had its own crown. Tuscany and Lombardy, Venetia were separate. Parma and Modena were duchies. And the Pope controlled a huge independent state in central Italy. Italy back then was more like the modern Balkans, small states with their own identities, often hostile to each other. Even today, this mentality remains. Just read the Italian national anthem. Written in the 19th century and officially adopted only in 2017, it openly states, "For centuries we have been divided, mocked, and oppressed. We are not one people because we are separated. Now the time has come to unite under one flag." The anthem itself reflects Italy's biggest problem. Italians dream of unity, but their regional identities are stronger. Here is one striking fact. In the last 78 years, Italy has had 70 different governments. On average, the government changes every 13 months. At the same time, Italy celebrates individuality. Look at the country's most famous fashion brands: Benetton, Gucci, Versace, Furla, Prada, Armani, Dolce & Gabbana. Nearly all began as small family businesses. The richest man in Italy today, Giovanni Ferrero, inherited the Ferrero Company from his father. And his father inherited it from his own father, the man who created Nutella shortly after World War II. This is typical for Italy. 85% of all Italian businesses are family-run. Fiat is still controlled by the Agnelli family, who also own Juventus. Luxottica, the global giant behind Ray-Ban, Oakley, and most designer eyewear, was built by one man and later inherited by his children. Italy also has many of the oldest continuously operating companies in the world. A glass workshop from 1295, a jewelry brand from 1369, and a family winery that has been active since 1385, with the 26th generation running it today. This continuity is impressive, but it has a downside. Family companies invest less in research and innovation. They stick to tradition instead of taking risks. This becomes clear when we look at the Global Innovation Index. Italy ranks in the 20s globally, far behind its economic size. But there was a time when Italy truly led the world, the period known as the Italian economic miracle. From the late 1940s to the mid-1970s, Italy's economy grew at nearly 6% per year, faster than every country except Japan. Massive U.S. investment through the Marshall Plan rebuilt Italian industry. Millions moved from rural towns to big cities. Fiat became a symbol of Italian industrial power, producing affordable compact cars for the masses. So iconic was the design that Fiat 500 was revived decades later. The Soviet Union even based the famous Zaporozhets on Fiat's designs. The same boom birthed Ferrari, Lamborghini, Alfa Romeo, Ducati, and Vespa, icons of Italian engineering. Italian fashion exploded too. Gucci opened a store in Manhattan in the early 1950s, becoming the first major European luxury brand in America. Prada, Valentino, Fendi, Versace followed. But many of those miracle-era companies later collapsed or were overtaken by foreign competitors. The best example is Parmalat, once a global giant with 148 factories in 31 countries. It went bankrupt in 2003 with 14 billion euros in debt, the biggest collapse in European history at the time. Why? Weak innovation, bureaucracy, fragmented politics, and resistance to modernization. Even though Italy is still the third largest economy in the EU and one of the biggest exporters, it lags behind in tech and scientific research. Korean, German, and Japanese companies overtook many Italian industries. Italy's past is filled with brilliance, but its future depends on whether it can overcome the very traditions that made it great.